Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on one of the most intense balancing acts in all of medicine. You know, we often think of anesthesia as just putting a patient to sleep, but it's so much more. It's this high-stakes game of science and strategy, where literally every single decision counts.
And to show you what I mean, we're going to follow a case where a procedure that looked totally standard on the surface was actually a hidden minefield of medical risk. It really pushed the anesthesiology team to the absolute limit of their expertise.
So let's meet our patient. She's a 54-year-old woman, and she's scheduled for what should be a pretty straightforward laparoscopic surgery. But, as you're about to see, beneath the surface, a storm was brewing.
Okay, so here's the deal. She has two really serious underlying conditions. The first is dermatomyositis, which is an inflammatory disease that causes pretty significant muscle weakness. And that has led to a second, even more severe complication, interstitial lung disease, which scars the lungs. So you've got these two conditions, plus her symptoms are getting worse, and all of a sudden, a routine case becomes an incredibly complex challenge.
To really put this into perspective for you, think of her lungs not as new, sturdy balloons, right? Think of them as very delicate, old, fragile ones. They're scarred, they're stiff, any extra pressure during the surgery, any little mistake, and it could be catastrophic.
So, when you have a patient this complex, the very first step is just to do a super deep dive into the risks. Before you even think about an anesthetic plan, you have to identify every potential problem, every single red flag.
And boom, here's the first major red flag. This number is her DLCO score. Now that's a fancy term for how well her lungs transfer oxygen into her blood. A healthy person's score? That's going to be close to 100%. Hers is 58%. That means her lungs are working at just over half capacity. That's a critical deficit.
And the list of dangers just keeps growing from there. Her lungs are incredibly fragile. Because she has trouble swallowing, there's a really high risk that stomach acid could get into those lungs. That's called aspiration. Her muscles might react in a totally unpredictable way to the standard drugs, and her heart function is a little bit off. You see, this isn't just a list of problems. It's a roadmap of potential disasters that the team has to navigate actively every single second.
Okay, so with all those risks clearly mapped out, now the anesthesiologist can start building the game plan. And this isn't just one plan, it's a multi-layered strategy, and it's designed to counter every single one of those threats we just talked about.
So, the first and most urgent challenge is this. How do you keep the patient safely asleep and breathing on a ventilator without damaging those incredibly fragile lungs?
The precision here is absolutely everything. Instead of standard ventilation, which, uses bigger breaths and more pressure, the team goes for a lung protective strategy. This means using tiny, really precise breaths at very low pressure. You're giving just enough oxygen to do the job, but you're not stretching or stressing that delicate lung tissue at all.
All right, next up, the muscle problem. To do this kind of surgery, the surgeon needs her abdominal muscles to be relaxed. But for this patient, with her condition, the drugs that provide that relaxation could be dangerous or just not work predictably.
The choice the team makes here is critical. There's a common muscle relaxant called succinylcholine. For this patient, it's completely off the table. No way. In someone with her condition, it can cause a life-threatening spike in potassium. So instead, they choose another drug, rocuronium. But even with this one, they have to use it with extreme caution and with continuous second-by-second monitoring to see how her body's reacting.
And finally, to deal with that aspiration risk, the team performs what's called a rapid sequence induction, or RSI. This is a swift, coordinated, three-step maneuver designed to get a breathing tube in and secure her airway in just a matter of seconds. It's all about minimizing the time her lungs are vulnerable.
Okay, so the plan is set. The patient is prepped. We're now heading into the operating room, where this incredibly meticulous strategy gets put into action. So the surgery starts with that safe RSI we just talked about. For the next 90 minutes, everything's going according to plan. The team is continuously fine-tuning that lung protective ventilation. They're monitoring her muscle relaxation. But then something happens. Right at the 90-minute mark, the monitor that's tracking her muscle function shows that the muscle block is actually deeper than they expected. Now, the instinct might be to react to what the surgeon is doing, but the anesthesia team does the exact opposite. They trust their monitor. They immediately stop giving any more of the relaxant, and they ask the surgeon to just pause for a moment. This is vigilance in action. It's incredible. So,
The surgery eventually finishes, and it's a success. But the danger is far from over. For a patient with lungs and muscles this compromised, waking up, or what we call emergence, is one of the most high-risk parts of the entire procedure.
To reverse the muscle relaxant and wake her up, the team has another choice to make. They could use the classic drug, neostigmine, but it's kind of slow, it's less predictable, and it has more side effects. Instead, they choose Sugammadex. It's a modern drug that works like a molecular sponge. It specifically finds the rocuronium molecules and just soaks them up, leading to a much faster, cleaner, and way more reliable reversal.
And the team will not take that breathing tube out until they see this number. It's called the train of 4, or TOF ratio. They send 4 tiny electrical pulses to a nerve and measure how the muscle responds. A score of 0.9 or higher is the objective, hard data proof that her muscle function is fully back, and that means she can breathe strongly all on her own. It's the ultimate safety check.
So, the patient was taken off the breathing tube safely, she recovered well, it's a great outcome. But what are the key takeaways from this incredibly complex case? What are the principles that turned such a high-risk situation into a success story?
Well, this case really boils down to 6 core principles. Things like protecting the lungs no matter what, managing drugs with intense monitoring, and making absolutely sure there's a safe, fully reversed wake-up. Every single step we saw was a deliberate choice, and it was based on this deep, deep understanding of this one patient's unique body and risks.
This case gives us such a rare and fascinating glimpse into the real world of anesthesia. And it really makes you wonder, right? Beyond the drama of the surgery that we can all see, how many of these invisible risks, these tiny calculations and meticulous adjustments are being managed in every operating room every single day just to keep every patient safe?